back, and this is Green Mountain Mornings here on WINQ AM Brattleboro. I am your host, Olga Peters. Thank you so much for joining me, and a huge welcome to Chris Mays from The Reformer. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Olga.
How is it over there in Dover? Is it super hot still?
It's getting there. Yeah, the sun is just starting to really come out.
Well, I hope you get to stay in some shades and some mountains a little bit longer.
Yeah, and then I'll be in the office soon where it's nice and air conditioned.
I think we should do a poll of businesses once this heat wave is over and see if their attendance was even better than normal, because everyone is like, I have to go into the office. It has AC.
I could imagine that it would be, because I know yesterday I did. I went in as early as I could. I just got right in there.
No lollygagging around, eh?
No.
So what are some of the things you will be kind of working on today, Chris?
Well, tonight there's a short select board meeting in Brattleboro.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be setting the tax rate, and I think some of the discussion is going to revolve around delays with the state and their budgeting process.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure what else to expect, except hopefully a pretty short meeting. I don't know if they have any big surprises, but we'll see tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe the tax rate's the only thing on the agenda, the only official thing on the agenda. It will be public participation and committee announcements. That would be anything else, wouldn't it? Select board comments, yeah. It'll be interesting to see what impact, if any, the state's budgeting process will have on the town of Brattleboro. When I spoke to Peter Elwell, the town manager, a couple weeks ago now, I think, he said, for the most part, setting the tax rate would be the biggest impact. Since the budget has gone through, I think they can set the tax rate okay. But we shall see tonight.
Yep.
Now, tell us, there was a lot of ramp up to the decriminalization of recreational marijuana in Vermont, and West Dover threw a party. How did it go?
Yes. It went well. It was there wasn't a lot of attendance, not as much as the organizers hoped for.
Mm-hmm.
But they were happy with how they could demonstrate how this large property could be used. So, for instance, there was this big stage. I don't remember the last time I saw a stage this big. Outdoors. It was massive. I just wasn't expecting it to be that big. But they had a few bands.
Mm-hmm.
The lieutenant governor came in the backyard where the trees were and the river. There was a side stage, and people were outside smoking and swimming. And then on the far side of the property, closer to Mount Snow, there were vendors and people educating the public about cannabis and hemp,
mm-hmm.
and also just selling products, artwork.
Okay. And what was it? Did you have a chance to talk to Lieutenant Governor?
Yes, I did, and he was pretty excited about it being July 1st, and he kept saying this was 20 years of work, and he said that legislators and people in governments everywhere have been kind of seeing the harms of the war on drugs,
mm-hmm.
and how marijuana has been stigmatized. And I think the festival organizers felt that stigma still existed a little bit. And
mm-hmm.
I know the inn owner said he thinks that over time it's going to become less of of what people think is a bad thing, and people are going to recognize it's something other than what they've grown up thinking.
Mm-hmm.
one Westover man I talked with, he just started a business where he'll come to your house and grow marijuana in your home, bring all the equipment, and it's a 3-month term. You see if you like it. That's supposed to be enough time to grow some marijuana, and then you'll see if you want the equipment to stay. He says it's not about teaching people how to grow, but it helps people. He thinks a lot of people are going to try to grow at first, and he thinks they're going to realize how time-consuming and difficult it can be.
Right.
So he thinks he might start to get more customers later on.
Oh, that's a very interesting business, because under the new law, you can grow marijuana and you can share it with folks, but you can't sell it. So yes, if you're not growing it, how would you obtain it?
That's right. Yeah, and he said him and his friends have been discussing ways to run a growing company, and sell marijuana if it became legal to sell in Vermont. But then they already had the licensing and everything, the trademark or whatever on the name. So they made a business to kind of made a business that was tailor-made to the law. And so he was pretty happy. And he also said he doesn't drink a lot of alcohol, so he feels like this was ending his own prohibition. Okay. And he said, kids are going to grow up with this as the new norm. It's not going to be stigmatized as much.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chris, thank you so much. Chris and I have to go to break, but we shall return in a few moments. This is Green Mountain Mornings, and you are listening on 100.3 FM, AM 1490. I am your host, Olga Peters, 23 minutes past the top of the hour. And just a reminder to everyone who's listening that this segment of Green Mountain Mornings is being filmed by BCTV. It will be online later today, and rebroadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight is sponsored by Brattleboro Savings and Loan. Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Mr. Chris Mays from The Reformer, calling in from Dover. You recently spoke to folks at Winston Prouty Center about a survey they had done around childcare and the workplace.
Yes. Chloe Leary, for the last, I don't know, maybe it's been a year or so, she's really been focused on creating this coalition of people in the childcare industry, as well as in the, just employers all around, from the biggest employers to the smallest employers. She wants there to be more cohesion between the two groups. She really thinks there's missed opportunities out there with economic development. And so they just did a survey, the coalition, and it went from May 14th to June 15th, and it was done on surveymonkey.com. And they heard from families in Windham County, but they heard from businesses within the region. So that included, Windsor County and some towns in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And the results weren't very surprising.
Okay.
One of the things they saw was employees were missing a day's work, or they were late, or had to spend time on the phone to deal with childcare issues. So they're seeing the employers and employees are seeing lost productivity, and some of the employees are saying they're finding it hard to get ahead in their careers because they have to deal with childcare issues. And the coalition, members of the coalition, believe it has to do with not enough spots being available for kids.
Okay.
So there's that issue, and there's also sometimes it's hard to find childcare at certain hours or for kids of a certain age.
Yeah. Yep.
So Yeah.
Um,
So the goal now is really to work together and try to find solutions for these issues.
I'm guessing when you mentioned times, you were talking about folks who maybe worked the overnight shift.
Yeah, that's kind of what I imagine it to be.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the age groups parents are having a hard time finding slots, places for their children?
Well, I think sometimes it can be really difficult for newborns and really young kids,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it can also be hard to find places for kids who aren't old enough to be left home alone yet, but are too old to be with some of the younger kids.
Okay. Right. So,
So I
so
think some of the times both those issues can be contributing factor to families experiencing difficulties.
mm-hmm. So what's the next step?
Well, they're meeting monthly, and Chloe was really clear about it being a place where business owners and child care advocates and child care providers could all meet up and try to work out some ways to help. One of the things Chloe talked about was how the governor and the legislature are very interested in bringing young families to Vermont, but she believes these child care issues have to be part of that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially, and they need to be part of the conversation around affordability as well. You want to make sure
Yeah,
that the folks providing the care earn a livable wage, but meanwhile, you also have to make sure that families can afford it.
yeah, and one of the questions on the survey asked employers and employees what would help them, and the employees were asked what would help them, and a large majority of them said a subsidy to help with child care or child care provided at the place of employment. And
Mm.
the employers said those were the two things that would be most difficult for them to do.
Oh no.
And that's not surprising at all to the people at Winston Prouty.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something they know they have to start working on.
Right. Right. Employers didn't happen to say why either of those two things would be hard for them to do, did they?
No, but the folks at Winston Prouty believed it really had to do with costs, and
Mm.
that's really what they pinned it on.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I wonder if you can do a cooperative childcare where
Yeah,
like a bunch of businesses could band together and create childcare for multiple employees.
yeah, you know what? That's probably something that they would explore. I know some of the employers actually have daycare, but they're out of slots. So
Mm.
so some of the kids who need daycare can't get into it because it's so full.
Right. Right.
And that's an issue that's happening all around the state, and I believe it's happening around the country too. I think Vermont, it's pretty pronounced though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how interesting. We're worried about our school age children population going down, and yet we don't have enough slots for children. We have some inverse
Yeah.
pyramids in our education system that kind of need to be sorted, I suppose.
Yeah, and Chloe's push really is to get people to think about this as an economic development issue. She feels, so often we're talking about the quality and importance of childcare, which is significant.
Mm-hmm.
But she really wants to tie the two things together.
And I have to agree with her. When I talk to people with small children, what I hear over and over again, especially like new parents, and they're kind of planning out maternity leave, paternity leave when they go back to work. Childcare is always part of that conversation. And is
Mhm.
it for some, it turns out to be less expensive for one of the parents to drop out of the workforce and stay home with the
That's a,
kids. What's that, Chris?
that's another that's another point that they made during the interview. One parent is often in the workforce and doesn't have a lot of flexibility to help with childcare. They're
Mm-hmm.
working longer hours. They're not with their family as often. And the other spouse or guardian is responsible for arranging childcare or caring for the child.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something they saw in the survey results.
That those duties kind of get split down the middle.
Yeah.
We are back, and this is Green Mountain Mornings on 100.3 FM, AM 1490. I'm your host, Olga Peters. 39 minutes past the top of the hour. And welcome back to the show, Chris Mays from The Reformer.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Thank you. Hey, I know that the decriminalization of recreational marijuana was the big law that went into effect on July 1st, but locally we had another law go into effect, aka the plastic bag ban. Tell us about that, Chris.
Yes, so single-use plastic bags are no longer allowed to be given to customers in town, and there are some exceptions. But try to think of the bag at the grocery store, with the handles that is just so common. So it was really strange yesterday to walk into Hannaford. I go there, probably every other day. And, last week, there were plastic bags all over the place, at every register. So I went in yesterday and they were all replaced with paper bags, and places like Hannaford and Market 32 are really pushing for people to bring in their reusable bags and to be more mindful of having them with you when you go shopping. And that's exactly what the ordinance, the goal of the ordinance was.
Mm-hmm. Now, Hannaford's, it sounds like they switched to paper bags. Will people have to buy the paper bags, or how's that going to work?
No.
I overheard someone at Market 32 talking to customers, and this was a week or two ago, and they had already started shifting over to paper bags to start getting people used to that. But she was encouraging the customers to bring their own bags because Market 32 may be, instituting some other policies a few months down the road around use of bags. So she said, get in the habit of bringing your own bags with you.
Yeah, at Hannaford, they have this big sign out front telling people about the ordinance, and it says, "We encourage you to remember your reusable bags, which are better for the environment."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, Hannaford's is interesting. They have had a sign similar to that out for years, saying, "Did you remember to bring your reusable bag?" And usually I get to that sign and say, "No, I didn't. It's home on the counter. But thank you for now making me feel guilty."
Every time we go to the supermarket, my girlfriend says the same thing. We forgot our reusable bags, but I think now I'm starting with this ordinance. I think it started to get it into my head more, and I'm actually just carrying things out more often than just using a bag because I want to carry it in something.
Yep. Yes, I've gotten in the habit of keeping a reusable bag in my purse, which helps a lot.
That's a good plan.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you could fold one up and put it in your wallet. You can start carrying you have to carry your journalism bag, so you've got something to carry it in.
Yeah, and we try to keep them in the car, but then when we go and use them, sometimes we forget to put it back into the car.
Yes, there's that too. Anything else to know about the plastic bag ban right now?
Just that the town is expecting widespread compliance, and that's what town manager Peter Elwell told me yesterday. He said, "I'm sure there will be some people who will need to they'll need to talk to and educate about the ordinance, but for the most part, they're expecting people to just
Hmm.
adapt to the ordinance and make the change."
Have you had a chance to talk to any local business owners?
I did for a previous article, and I think you remember the owner of Sam's downtown. He was the only business owner who went to the select board meetings and said, "Hey, this is going to be kind of tough for me." But I
Hmm.
talked with him probably, I don't know, a month or two ago, and he said, "Yeah, we made the changes, and it wasn't ideal, but now we're doing it."
Okay. Wow.
And then the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance created a bag share program.
Hmm.
And so on July 9th, at a few stores, they're starting with a few stores at first, and then they might expand, but they're going to have a bag share kind of set up where people can take or leave bags, and they don't always have to be so concerned with oh, I forgot them again. But if they remember to bring them back and let the next person have them, they'll keep the reusable bags will be used more often.
Hmm. So it sounds like they're planning on setting up like a bag tree, and you can take a bag if you need it, leave one, bring it back. If you have an extra you don't need, you can leave it there, sort of
Yeah,
thing. Nice. Well, like those little libraries that you see on the side of the
yeah.
road. Well, thank you for that, Chris. Tell us a little bit what's happening with Culture Made these days.
Well, we're still trying to see if everything's working out. It seems to be, as far as we know from the last select board meeting when the board approved a grant application to the U.S. Economic Development Administration. They
Mm-hmm.
were looking for about $420,000, half of what it will take to upgrade utilities infrastructure on by the Exit 1 Industrial Park.
Okay, yes.
And so the town believes they'll recoup their half of those upgrades through user fees and whatnot. And so, and also for the number of jobs this is expected to create, I forget the number off the top of my head, but
Mm-hmm.
this is supposed to be a pretty big project.
And do we know yet when we should hear about that loan?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay. And anything else with Culture Made that's because I know a lot of people are really curious about when this business will kind of move in and get off the ground, but that's still a ways away. Oh, so say that
Yeah,
again, a ways away.
the town manager spoke to that a little bit. He said there's some contingencies and more things will be brought to the board. Grant applications and lease. They're going to have to sign a lease agreement with the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, they're really leading this project because they're going to be renovating their space and then leasing it to Culture Made.
Right, right. So they definitely have a skin in the game for this
Yeah.
project. Now, you recently did a kind of an exit interview with Rod Francis, who is in the process of getting ready to move north and leave the planning department for the town of
Yeah,
Brattleboro.
he's been really busy lately. So it took a little while to get him on the phone, but when I finally did, he talked about how he was going to be leaving people he really enjoyed working with in the planning office.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with the town for 10 years, and now he's
Wow.
going to be doing a similar job in Norwich.
Okay. For the town or for a business
Yeah,
there or okay.
Yeah, he's going to be the director of planning and zoning for the town.
Well, good for him. What's he looking forward to?
Well, he just moved closer to there, so that's one of his big things. He's happy that he'll be closer to home. He didn't tell me what town he moved to, but he did say it was a happy move.
Okay, good.
So
We
so yeah, that's one of the things he's looking forward to, working closer to home. He said he'll miss being in Brattleboro day to day, but he says he's not far enough where he won't come back to visit.
Okay, good. Good. And what is he going to miss about working at the town besides his colleagues?
I think just the whole culture of the town and the people and how everybody kind of works together. He was instrumental in some of the recovery efforts after Tropical Storm Irene,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the Brooks House fire.
Oh, right. Yes.
And he also led the efforts to update the town plan a few times and the land use regulations, which hadn't been updated since the 70s.
Really? Wow. That must have been an overhaul.
Yeah, it was. I remember sitting through those hearings for the land use regulations, and yeah, it's tough to put new regulations on some of the businesses who have been around for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, but environmental law has changed since the 70s considerably. So I suspect there was a lot of
Yeah,
catching up to do. I remember those hearings
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
One last thing before I let you go, Chris. Uh,
yeah.
there's something happening in Grafton. Tell us about that with the gifts of nature.
Yeah, the Vermont Symphony Orchestra they're really trying to get their name out there more and get more people to know about their concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to play all over the state. Grafton is one of their stops they've been doing every summer. I think since 1990.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I talked with the assistant concertmaster, Kathy Andrew, who's a Brattleboro resident, and she's a violinist, and she was really excited for the show. It's actually it's got a lot of things going on.
Mm-hmm. When's it happening?
It's I think it's what is it? I think it's tomorrow.
Okay. I bet they could check your article in the Reformer or go to Plan a Go-Go.
It's actually today at 7:30.
Ah, it's today at 7:30. Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
tonight. Yeah.
Well, that's good because it should be cooling down tonight, and folks can go and get some good music.
Yeah, and they say this set will be really accessible to everyone. It's not just people who like classical music. There's some pop songs and just a real mix of tunes.
Oh, that sounds like fun. That sounds like a lot of fun and a nice way to spend an evening. Well,
Yeah.
Chris Mays, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope, did I hear that you're going on vacation?
Yes, I'll be in Cape Cod for about a week.
Fantastic. I hope you get a lot of nice, cool weather, a lot of good beach time, and you get some really good rest and relaxation in before coming back to the local news grind.
Thank you.